So as absolutely nice as it would be for me to pretend that everyone out there can just run out and buy a high-end graphics card and just go to town, or even a mid-range graphics card for that matter, the reality is not a lot of people can. So most people end up in the well under $200 price range and tend to end up closer to the $100 price range. Well, that's kind of what we're going to take a look at today. We're going to take a look at two different graphics cards from both, or one from each vendor. So the RX 460, specifically the Sapphire Nitro RX 460 4GB OC model, and the EVGA GTX 1050 super clocked 2GB model. Yeah, different gigabyte levels, but they're both about the same price and in the same category, and that's just what you get at that point. Now, we all know that either one of these cards can run away with those free-to-play games or the esports type games. So Dota 2, Counter-Strike, even Overwatch, those games, there's no problem for these cards to run those full out. What if you're in that price range and you really do want to play those AAA games? So Gears of War, Titanfall 2, Battlefield 1, those kind of games. What happens if you want to run those on these cards? Well, that's what we're taking a look at today. So we're going to compare these two cards and see kind of where they fall and what kind of performance you can expect if that's the kind of gaming you're looking to do. Now, let's talk about the cards themselves. First up on the block, we have the GTX 1050 super clocked by EVGA, featuring 640 CUDA cores clocked at a base clock of 1430 MHz with a maximum boost clock of 1544 MHz. And again, featuring 2 GB of GDDR5 at 7 GHz on a 128-bit bus. Now moving on to the red team here, we've got the Sapphire RX 460 Nitro OC Mouthful Edition, and it's rocking 896 string processors with a boost clock of 1250 MHz. And it features 4 GB of GDDR5, also at 7 GHz on a 128-bit bus. Now, we did run both of these cards on our usual X99 test bench with the 6800K, 32 gigs of RAM on an X99A2 motherboard, but that really isn't going to affect the performance of these cards because they are the choke point. So what we are seeing is full out, the best that these cards can do at these games, 1080p, medium settings, current and next gen APIs. So let's jump right into those. Well guys, there you have the results. They were kind of interesting. They were a lot closer overall than I thought they were going to be. The GTX 1050 tended to have better averages, whereas the RX 460 seemed to do better on the minimum 1% and 0.1% lows, but a little bit lower on the average, which resulted in a more fluid type gameplay, not as high peaks or as high average, but a very steady gameplay. The GTX 1050 did very well. It was a little bit lower on the minimums and the 1%, and I can attribute part of that to the fact that it only has 2 gigs of VRAM. That could potentially down the road become a problem, but in these games, they all ran perfectly fine at 1080p medium. I know that's not something that everybody's shooting for. Why do you shoot for 1080p medium? Well, the reality is that's the budget that some people have to work with. So these cards provide a good gameplay experience for that price, with one caveat. For just a little bit more, you're talking RX 470 ranges, and that card is substantially faster than both of these. But if you absolutely cannot go past that, this is what you're looking at, and you're going to get a good gameplay experience. One last thing to take into consideration, the RX 460 required a 6-pin, the GTX 1050 did not. So one has better compatibility. This is a tough one, guys. This is a price range where you really have to break down and look specifically at the games you're going to play. And, you know, sure, the RX 460 crossfires, but are you really going to crossfire this level of cards? Something to take in consideration. We thank you for watching the video. If you did enjoy it, please subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on our future content, because we have a lot of stuff planned for you guys. All right, we'll see you next go around.